Okay, we're going to pick up on 5.2 CAD modeling skills where we left off here and starting creating this shape on Inventor. So it's got a 1.5 inch side by 1.5 inches. I can tell that by the spacing of the grid. And then we have a 0.5 inch spacing on either of these legs. So that's the first thing we're going to create on Inventor in our new sketch. So you'll have already created a new sketch. Hopefully, if you haven't, you can do that now. And we'll create this size. Now we've already created a few different shapes using the dimensions, so I'm fairly certain you're used to this part here. So I'm just going to be typing in these dimensions here as I go, and I will adjust some of them a little bit later on. So as you're creating these, pay attention to the sizes of things, but you can adjust things later on, which is part of what I'm going to be doing now. And so I've created the basic shape, and I'm going to use the dimension to finish off the other dimensions. Now there's lots of different ways to do things in Inventor, and so you can decide how you want to go about this and as you create this. But when you're finished, you should have a shape about like this, 1.5 inches tall by 1.5 inches wide, 0.5 inch leg width here, and 0.5 inch leg width there. That should be completely purple as long as you started in the middle. Those constraints will already be created. So the next part of this involves using the fillet command. So we're going to take a look at that and use that for the next part of what we're doing. So on here we have this shape, and we're going to use fillet. Now the fillet is going to be a 0.25 inch fillet. We're going to use it on these three corners here, and we're going to be doing that in the edges that we've created. Now this is going to be after we extrude it to 1.5, so we're going to have to do that first. So we're going to finish sketch on this one and extrude it to 1.5 inches. And then we'll use the fillet command here. So fillet, and this is going to be a 0.25 inch fillet. So we set that in our radius amount. And then we're going to select the lines that make up our shape. So notice we can do both outside fillets at these corners and an inside fillet here as well. Once we've got those faces selected, hit return or hit enter. Now we're going to save this as fillet, and we're going to put it into our folder that we've been saving things, the CAD modeling skills, as fillet. And this is the fillet command. Make sure you're not replacing the previous fillet that we did that was a sketch. This is a different one. So you could actually save this as, let's call it fillet 2. That would be a better way to save that. All right. Now, this next part we're actually going to do a chamfer. So we're going to replace these fillets. So over in your browser window, if you don't have that, remember you can get it from View, User Interface, and check Browser. But in the 3D model here, in that view, we're going to right-click on Fillet and simply delete that feature. It'll put us back to our original shape. And then we'll use chamfer. That is under the fillet. It's a chamfer. This is, as opposed to being rounded, this is going to be a sharper edge. So Let's check our dimensions on this one for chamfer. And we're going to use a couple of different types of chamfers here. And it's going to be, the first one on the top outside edge is a 45-degree chamfer and a distance of 0.125 inches. So we're going to select that, and we're going to get the two faces here. So let's go back, and we're going to open up this, and we're going to use, there's a couple of different choices, distance and angle, two distances and distances, and we're going to use a distance and angle. It's a 45-degree, and from our information, and a 0.125 inches. So that's already set there. Now we just need to select the face that we're going to work off of, which is this face, and our edge, which is this top edge. When we've got those selected, it chops off the corner there for our chamfer. So we can click apply on that, and that way we'll be able to continue working with the chamfer command. Now the next one that we're going to do is going to be a chamfer with two different distances, 0.25 vertical and 3.75 horizontal. So we're going to switch our chamfer command there to two distances, so we can see what we've got. We have one that is the same distance, not one we're looking for, so we're going to lose two distances. And so we have two different distances on that, and it's 0.25 vertical and 0.375 horizontal. So we're going to put that in 0.25 as our first, and 0.375 as our second. Now we choose the edge that we're going to do. We can see that in the chamfer thing. It's asking for an edge, highlighted blue. So we go and choose our edge, and it makes those distances in there. You go ahead and click OK on that one, and that should get our chamfer the way we want it. We're going to edit this fillet now to be a 0.125 inch radius. So let's go in and make that. So we're going to go back to fillet, change that to make sure it's at 0.125, and select the interior corner there. And we can hit enter. Now that one should be all done, looking like this. So let's save that one. We're going to go to File, Save As, so we don't overwrite our previous fillet. So we have fillet, fillet 2. This one we're going to call chamfer, and save that one. If ever you save over something, make sure that you just go back and recreate that. A little bit of a problem that might happen, but at this point we're doing simple things. Now we're going to do a couple of bits and pieces on the base of our passenger section here, and it's asked for some edge treatment of round or chamfer on that. That is all created already for us, so we're not going to worry about that a whole lot at this point in time. But we're going to work on this next model here, which is the window, the base of the Automo blocks. And so this has a lot of different dimensions on it. We have to be careful as we make this that we don't cause problems by running into other dimensions along the way, and we don't get unintended constraints. So let's start with the overall shape here, which is a rectangle 1.975 inches by 1.590 inches. So we're going to start a new part and create that sketch. I think the rectangle command will be our quickest here. So it's 1.590 inches in the height and 1.975 inches in our width. I'm going to check those dimensions here from our drawing. and that works out pretty good. Now we need to round our corners off here, and that's a 0.20 radius on our fillets. That's a rounded corner. We've done that once before. We're going to use that again and set that. So let's do fillet command and set that to 0.2, and then we're going to select each one of our corners on that. Remember, you can do two sides or simply the corner. You'll see it work out depending on which way you click it, so you can see your shape. All right, so we're done with the fillet command there. The next part that we're making is we're making these four shapes in here. We're going to go and work from the top left here, do our circle and a square, and then we'll do the triangle and our star. The star is going to be the most complicated one, obviously. So the first thing we're going to do is make this circle, which is a 0.580 diameter circle, and we're going to have to make sure it's in the right location, which we see from these other dimensions here showing us where the center of that circle is. It's important to place those things in the right place, so always be paying attention to that as you are putting things in. It's not just what those measurements are, 0.580, but where that particular shape is. You can see right now it's off a little bit, and that's okay, because we're going to adjust the dimensions. So we check the center of the circle and the side to get that area. Make sure it's in the right spot. Our dimensions say that's 0.490 over. So let's do that at 0.490. Nice thing about dimensions is we can get things into the place they need to be, even if we don't get it right the first time as we're setting it in. And this one is 0.340 there. It should look approximately like that. We'll make sure that our numbers are right, and they do. They look good. So the next thing we've got is a square that is 0.580 inches on the side. Since it's a square, all those sides are the same. And then we have to dimension it from the edges. So let's get the square in there first at 0.580. We're going to use the rectangle command. Rectangle creates squares as well. 0.580. You can hit the tab button to switch to our other measurement. 0.580. Again, it's not quite in the right spot, but that's all right. So we're going to set those dimensions here. Now this one's going to be a little bit tough because of where that ended up. Because when we put this dimension here in, and we're going to say that from the top, according to our drawing here, it needs to be a 0.050 dimension. Now, as we put that in, and we'll notice 0.050 is that it actually moves it up. It didn't slide it down like we wanted it to. I'm going to undo that. We're going to use the move command to get it down a little bit. Now we're going to select each one of the sides individually to get our move in there, as that's the first part it's asking for is select, and then we need a base point. So we click on base point, and we can click really any one of our corners, and yes is okay on that. And we're going to move it down a little bit there. All right. Now the yes we selected was to relax the other dimensions, because we do have this dimension here that we had put in there. And if it's not there, you can put it back in, but we're going to adjust that dimension by double clicking on it. So we're done with our move. Double click this, and that was a 0.050 distance. And now it moves up to where we wanted it. It's better now. So let's check the dimension to the side, and it is 0.200 inches from the side. So that's what we're going to move next, is dimension that in at 0.200. Now, often as we put dimensions in, where we place the actual dimension is just simply needs to be away from the shape. Be careful now, all these white lines are dimension lines. We don't want to work off of them for creating other shapes or figures or distances. So make sure you're paying attention to what's an actual object line and what's a dimension and extension line. Those are different things. We've discussed that before. Now the next thing we're going to make is a triangle. So under rectangle there is the polygon feature, which is going to be awfully handy for us. We can create a polygon, which is a number of sided shapes, multi-sides. We just tell it the number of sides. So we're going to make this a three-sided shape, and we're going to work it in here. Now we have to be careful. As you see, we could be lining up with these dotted lines, making a constraint to something else. So I'm going to make sure I'm away from those and sort of click and set our triangle in there. Now we have a few dimensions we're going to have to put on this and probably some constraints. You can see that it is actually parallel to the far side, so we're going to do that first, and then make the side 0.638 inches wide. So those are the first two things that we're going to do on this. I'm going to use the parallel constraint and select this bottom side and the left side of our shape. And that works great. Now let's do our dimension, which is 0.638. You notice it adds the dimension to those other sides because it's an equilateral triangle, so they're all the same. Now we just have to get it into the right place, which is 0.050 inches up and 0.20 inches over. So let's come and do that. And so the dimension to the bottom and the bottom corner, this is 0.050, and then we have that 2 inches over. Now we're in that shape again where if we dimension it, it's going to stick out further, so we need to get it inside our shape. You may not be in this position depending on where you started your triangle, but if you need to, we can move it, and again we'll select the sides of the shape we want to move, and our base point, we'll select the center here, and we want to relax dimensions. In this case, actually, I'm going to say no, because we want to keep that 0.050. So we're going to keep that. And it slides along that edge, which is great. That's what we want. I'm going to just slide it over just a little bit, and then we'll figure out the 0.20 next. So we're done with that one. So you can adjust your commands paying attention to what you want. Now the tip of the triangle and the edge of our shape, and that should be 0.200. So now we have our triangle in there. Double check our dimensions on that to make sure that's right. Excellent. Now our star is going to be a little bit more complicated. You notice there are 3 circles in here that we're using. Actually it's 2 circles and a polygon in there, but they're all dashed lines, and those lines are important. What those lines are is called construction lines. We've talked about construction lines before. You can do this in Inventor as well. Over on the right hand side here there is a bar where we can click construction, and we're going to make our circles and polygons. So I'm going to first start with the first circle about that big, put another circle inside of it. Be careful of those dotted lines. We don't want to constrain it in any particular way yet. And a polygon. Now this polygon here, we're going to set in here. We're not setting all the dimensions yet. We should look at that. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to go along with the stars there. So it's 5 sides. It's a pentagon, so we change it to 5 sides. And each time we're creating these, we're starting at the same center point. That's going to be important. And this is going to come out to the size of the circle here. And so it's hooked into place there. Now, let's check some of these other dimensions before we start putting in our circle. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually place the center of the circle 0.363 inches up and 0.488 inches over. Well, let's do that. So from the side, it is 0.488 inches. And then from the bottom should be 0.388 inches, if I remember correctly. We can always adjust these if we got them wrong. Oh, it was 488 and 363. So let's adjust those, make sure we got it right. 363. Get that right. Okay. So now the next dimensions we need to add in here is the dimensions of our circles. Now our outer circle is 0.605 and our inner circle is 0.412. So let's put those 605 and 412 in. So we're going to select the outer circle, get that dimension. It's 0.605. And when we expand it, the other circle is inside it, but the pentagon is hooked to it. So that makes it kind of easy because it's already connected. And 412 is that inner circle. So it'll shape approximately like this. And check to see if there's any other constraints we can throw on this one. And at this point in time, I don't see any other constraints. Now, there is a little bit of a tilt to our pentagon that is separate from our other shape. I'm not going to worry about that at this time. We don't have specific dimensions on that, an angle or another constraint. So we're going to simply leave that in there, and we're going to start drawing this star pattern, which is going to start in the corners of the pentagons, come down to the circle, and back over to the corners. Now all these lines are the same length. We're going to adjust that after we draw them. Now before we draw our line, we want to come over to our construction and turn that off so that we have solid lines now as we're working here. So I'm going to find the center, these points here of our pentagon, and start our line at the corners there and come down to our circle, and then we're going to go back out to the pentagon. And so we're going to just continue to make our lines like that around the pentagon the whole way, creating this star shape. It'll be nice and even once we have created our other constraints. So we have to be careful watching that we don't add any extra constraints in there, dotted lines that are unfortunate. Like here, we can see a straight line over, it's hitting a midpoint on another line. We're just going to kind of move it out so that we don't get those as we're working here. If we get some later on, we'll take those off. So we'll do the best we can to get things hooked up without too much extra on the lines. And so it's pretty good as far as the star shape goes now. I'm going to use the escape to get out of that command. And I'm going to make my lines equal. So I'm going to use the equal and see how this works out. So I'm going to make these two lines equal to each other, and then these two lines. And by the time I get around making everything equal to each other, we're going to have some problems with constraints, so we'll be careful. Go around keeping the equal up. See if we can get those to, alright, so we've got some over constraints. We may have an extra line in there somewhere, so we'll do the ones we can do. And work our way around. So once we've got that last one in there, it's turned purple, looks pretty good there. We have our star shape. Now this one's a little bit off. We might check those and see our constraints. Now this is going to light up a whole bunch, but we're going to right click and show all constraints, and you can see there's a whole bunch of them in here. And we'll see that one's a tangent constraint there, and a tangent constraint there, and I think that's what's causing our problem. So we're going to right click on that tangent constraint, and we're going to delete that tangent constraint. Same thing on this one here, delete that there. And then we're going to try and use our equals command and see if that straightens our lines out. That does what we're looking for there. So now we have that all. Now you may have other constraints in there. If you see other things in there on these, a lot of these are for our polygon, our pentagon there, so those are okay. Our equals are we're looking for anything extra that doesn't fit in there. If you see some of those, you're going to delete those out. Once you've got everything set with your equals in there, you can right click, and we're gonna turn off our constraints. So right click, hide all constraints again, and so we're better there. So now we've got that complete shape, which is what we're looking for. It's got our triangle, our diamond, our star, our square, and our circle. So we're gonna finish sketch on that. This is gonna get extruded. And so we're making sure that we're getting just that shape. Now we have a little bit of a problem on mine here, which is they want to do that star wants to be filled in, and that's no good. That should be open. So that means I've got some problems on that. So I'm going to go back to my sketch over here, double click it. If you don't have problems on yours, you don't need to do this part. We're going to fix and make sure that we have that. I'm going to check my constraints again, show all the constraints, and look to see what I have. So somewhere in here I am not connected at a shape. So I'm going to look and see there's a missing equals over here, and that might be part of my problem. So I'm going to click equals here. It says that's an over constraint, so maybe it's a different one. And we seem to have a problem. So we're going to try the coincident constraint and hook our points and lines. We're going to get probably a whole bunch of things that are going to show that they are already existing. And that's okay. We'll figure out which ones are wrong, and we'll set that out. So it seems to be that we've got everything set, so we're not sure exactly what's causing the problem. In this case, what we might do then is I'm going to hit escape, get out of that command, and I'm going to take off our circle, our inside circle. Now that's going to release the green, and make it green because we're losing some of our constraints, but it hasn't changed that shape any. I'm going to see if that works. We'll finish this and go to our extrude. That's still not quite doing it there, so we still have a little bit of work to do. So let's go back to our sketch. And this is one of the things that you have to do occasionally, just making sure that everything is working out all right. So I think what I'm going to try here is, instead of equals, we're going to create a slightly different constraint. We're going to delete these equals, and we're going to actually create some more construction lines here. I'm going to put my circle back in place and drag it out to where it's touching on there. And then I'm going to use the line and the construction line to create a connection between those points and the center point of all of the lines that we have from our pentagon. Give that a try. We're looking for the green dot that will indicate a center point. Find that. Now the next thing we want to do is do a perpendicular here. See that that is perpendicular to those lines. It's connected to the others, so it's going to move some things around for me. It's okay. I already got that one. And we'll see if that doesn't line up our triangle. It says it's over constrained, so it must already be there. And try one more. There we go. So we have those in place. One problem, we didn't do our circle as a construction line, but we can fix that. Click on the construction, on the circle, and change that to a construction line. Now it works just fine. So let's see if this gets us what we're looking for. Still not quite getting it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and accept this, and I'm going to try something else. So first I need to figure out what the extrusion is. I'm going to come back and check this out. This is going to get extruded out here to 0.30. Gives us from this shape over here, so that's fine. We can do that. And set this to try our extrusion again. Come out. This is 0.30. I'm going to do a little something under the extrusion here, open that up, and on sketch 1 I'm going to right click and I'm going to share sketch. What that allows me to do is to use that sketch again. So I'm going to try extrude, and I'm going to see if I can find that triangle again over here and use that, my star, and use that. It's still not accepting it. So I have some other difficulties with this sketch. It's maybe something I need to go back and work on later on. If yours is working just fine, great. If not, that's something we'll need to work on. So I'm going to go in. I'm done with my extrusion that I was trying there. I'm going to go on sketch 1. I'm going to see if I can't do something about this. And maybe it's just a matter of redrawing these lines. So I'm going to click and delete the lines here and try this all again. I'll have my previous references from other stuff where things were meeting up, and I think that will help me out. And we'll see if we can't get this to work out. Again, if you're already got it made your star shape, you can skip ahead in the video. If not, keep working along here. We're just trying to get this all. What probably happened is I don't have a completely closed shape, so I'm looking to make sure that each of these is drawn to the green dot each time so that all of my shape is enclosed. So as I draw this out, real important to hit those spots. It's just something that you get practice with over and over and understanding how the program works. So if I get this right this time, what I should get is the chance to extrude this star here. I'm going to finish sketch on that. I'm going to do an extrusion, see if I can get that, and I can get that shape now. The difference is I need to make it a cut, and it already chose it for me. If it doesn't, we have these options over here, cut, and the distance is the same amount because it's going to cut all the way through. And so we've got that working out just fine now. Now one thing that is a little bit annoying is we can see that sketch. So what I'm going to do on sketch 1 here is I'm going to right click and change the visibility so that that goes away, and now my shape looks a little bit better. So now I'm ready to move ahead on this, and the next part of this is a shell. We've done shell once before. We're going to use that shell function down to a 0.01 thickness to get the feature to look like this, and we're going to work on that now. So let's go to shell here, and we're going to shell that, choose our feature here and change that to 0.01 in there, 0.01, and OK. We'll take a look at that, kind of check it from the side, and that's looking mighty nice. This is going to be the base where all the people fit into the toy car that we've been working on and played with this year. So this is the passenger base that we have created here. Check the name on that, and we're going to make sure we have that saved. Yep, this is the passenger base. So this is going to go into the same folder that we've been saving everything else, and we'll save as passenger base. So T9, call it the passenger base, and save that one. So just like the windshield, if you want to go back and change the colors on this, you use the default. You know where these colors are, find the color that you like. This was a green in some of them. It's other colors in others. I don't care a whole lot what color you want to set that as, but make sure you just save that once you've done that. So this is going to be the end of this part, and you can, once you finish this, you can go on to the next part to work on the next video.